I would like to call this board meeting back to order. At this time, Mr. Glenn Patterson, would you come and give us an update on Ms. Patterson, please, sir?
Chairman Lawson, Dr. Williamson, and board members. First of all, thank you all for this opportunity to just give you an update on Ms. Patterson. On behalf of the Patterson family, we would like to thank you all for your swift actions that you took on the last board meeting to assist our family member. But she's doing well, making progress, still not out of danger, but she's making progress. She's stable, blood pressure is good. They was gonna do some tests on her and with her brain, but she has a lot of activity going on her left side. So that's great. The doctor said that's great. So she's stable, but just keep her in prayer. And again, thank each and every one of you all for your swift reaction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to begin or start back on 2023-2024 Students of Excellence, Ms. Dallas and Ms. Hammonds. Board members, if you would, go to the podium.
So board members, if you line up right here facing the parents and the guests. Be more organized. You're acting.
We will begin with Dr. Barton, who will come forward to present the second winner for Fairmont High School.
Good evening. On behalf of the Fairmont Chamber of Commerce, our second student is Mr. Caden Colvin. Caden is a senior at Fairmont High School and has an unweighted GPA of 3.19. Some outstanding accomplishments that he shared was that he sang the national anthem at graduation last year. He's a member of our Beta Club and National Honor Society. One thing that he didn't mention that I want to highlight, he's also taken advantage of the free college courses at Robeson Community College. So he's took a number of CCP courses and is well on his way to earning his college degree already. His future plans are to attend college and to become a storyboard artist. If we have some of his friends and family here tonight, if y'all will stand. Congratulations, Caden.
Now we will have the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce representative, Mr. Patrick Strickland, come forward to present the winners for Purnell Sweat High School.
Good evening. Tonight, as Pembroke Area Chamber of Commerce President, I have the honor to join in celebrating the students of the public schools of Robeson County. Tonight with me is the Vice President, Ms. Carol Richardson. And in addition to my service with the Chamber of Commerce, I have the privilege of serving on the Board of Directors for Communities and Schools and our charter school, and understand the importance of these recognitions. Each student in our school system are excellent in their own right. However, the Pembroke Area Chamber of Commerce has the opportunity of recognizing two extraordinary students of excellence. The first student is James Lisenby. James is 11th grade student at Purnell Sweat High School with a 4.0 unweighted GPA. He is the lead manager of the Purnell Sweat robotics team, vice president of the competitive events of the HOSA club, and volunteered as prosecution attorney for the Robeson County teen court system. James' future plan is to pursue a career as a medical bioengineer. I also welcome and recognize James' parents and friends if they're here for their support. I don't think James was able to be back with us tonight, but a representative from the school is here. Thank you. The second student is Miss Anissa Maines. Anissa is a 12th grade student at Purnell Sweat High School with a 3.75 unweighted GPA. She is captain of the varsity volleyball team, class treasurer of the student council government, and camp counselor for middle school volleyball camps. Anissa's future plans is to pursue a career as an occupational therapist. I also welcome her family and friends for their support. Is Anissa here? Yes. And a recognition of the school representatives. Miss Anissa was with us Monday night and has already received her plaque and award. Thank you.
Now we will have the Red Springs Chamber of Commerce representative, Miss Maggie Morley, come forward to present the winners for Red Springs High School.
Good evening, everybody. I am proud to be here as the representative of the Chamber of Commerce in Red Springs and to honor two of our students. The first student I would like to honor is Mr. Caleb Brockington, and excuse if I don't say your name right, but his GPA is a 3.97. He's a Chief Junior Marshal, Superintendent Academic Award winner, and National Honor Society member. His future plans are to attend college and major in business. Mr. Caleb Barkington. Our second student is Ms. Kamara Purcell. Ms. Kamara has an unrated GPA of 3.86. She's also a Superintendent Academic Award winner, a Junior Marshal, a member of the Beta Club, and she's planning to attend UNC Chapel Hill to major in marketing. Mrs. Kamara Purcell.
Our final presentation will be for the winners of St. Paul's High School, which I will be presenting. And we have Madison Phillips. She's in 10th grade. She has an unweighted GPA of 3.69. Madison has played volleyball for 2 years and is currently serving as captain of the JV team. She is part of the St. Paul's High Junior ROTC and is currently serving as corporal. She's been a part of the St. Paul's High FFA for 2 years and is currently serving as secretary. Madison plans to attend college to study veterinary medicine after high school. And our last student was Freddie Aguilar Lanzas. He wasn't able to attend tonight. He's in 12th grade. He has an unweighted GPA of 3.88. Freddie has worked part-time and some full-time jobs throughout his high school experience to assist his family financially while still maintaining excellent grades. He was a junior marshal at St. Paul's High. He tutors at St. Paul's High School for the Aspire program, in which he assists English language learners with schoolwork as well as English language acquisition. Freddie plans to study computer engineering at NC State University after graduation. The high school AIG specialist would like to thank each Chamber of Commerce organization for their time and cooperation in this endeavor to honor these students, and also Dr. Williamson, Dr. Carr, Dr. Dallas, and our esteemed board members for the opportunity to present this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have summer school, Dr. Wendy Dorsey Carr.
Show that. Good evening, Chairman Lawson, Dr. Williamson, and board members. What we'd like to do is show you, talk to you about the summer school schedule for this upcoming year. And what you should have a copy of the summer school schedule in your packet. What you'll notice this year, we have the following camps we have Read to Achieve that will be going on for grades 2nd and 3rd. The Indian Education Program that will continue for grades 3-8. Our CTE Accelerator Camp, which will be for our rising 8th, 9th, and 10th graders. We'll have our Migrant Education for grades K-12, multilingual learners, grades K-12, Credit Recovery for 9-12 at the high schools, the extended school year for our special education students, grades K-12. I'm gonna let Mr. Jamal kind of speak to sending out applications that'll be coming out just shortly, and that process that'll occur soon too.
Good afternoon, Chairman Lawson and board members and Dr. Williamson. So after tonight, we'll be sending out our applications to all our staff, and they'll all have opportunity to apply for the various camps that we're hosting this summer. that process as relates to the high school, usually their principals would contact those who will apply and go through that process and help us to filter out those individuals. The Read to Achieve camp, Dr. Carr and her team will also, because you have to have certain qualifications for that, will filter through that process as well. But everyone will have an opportunity to apply. Bus drivers, all of those individuals will have opportunity to apply. We'll send out those applications starting tomorrow. There'll be a deadline for March 29th for all applications to be turned in. It will be explained in the email that will be sent to all staff. And just FYI, they will be getting their hourly pay. So I know a couple years ago we did the COVID pay, but they'll be getting their hourly pay current, which is what they have now.
Okay. Dr. Manuel?
Question number one, thank you. Question number one, and this is Dr. Carr, what curriculum would be used this summer?
We're pulling resources together right now that we're developing for each of them that are research-based. So it's going to be a variety of resources that focus on phonics and phonemic awareness because those are the major skill areas that have a gap in our students. And so Dr. Dallas has a team that's working together to pull those materials together now.
Okay, that will be, I understand that will be probably K2 or whatever.
It's
and
only
Read to
only second and third this year.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, now I want to go back to ask you, and this might be Mr. Campbell's question. Mr. Campbell, what personnel would be used? Only teachers? Would it be counselors or any other description of workers to be used?
So we have the media coordinators will be used twice during the summer, the first and last day, to pick up, to pass out devices and to collect devices. We also have just the teachers mainly this year that we used for our summer camps.
No counselors,
No, sir, no, ma'am.
even high school counselors?
Nurses. Yes, we will have nurses at every site this year. There will be a nurse at every site this year.
Okay, but getting not to any of the summer school program per se, but will counselors be extending employment at high schools?
Oh, well, each high school has a 12-month counselor already.
I'm sorry.
Each high school has a 12-month counselor currently.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next is EC reorganization update. Dr. Carr, Dr. All.
Good evening. So tonight we want to just give a quick overview of the updates that we're making to the EC program to ensure that we are in compliance of meeting the needs of our students based on state guidelines, and also making sure that we ensure that students are getting the best services possible by putting them back at home school. So I'm going to let Ms. All speak through what we're going to do. I'm sorry, Dr. All, to talk about what we're doing with those changes and entertain any questions that you may have about those changes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
unless someone has a curiosity, I was present the other night and it's absolutely there in guidelines, and I would vote to approve, make a recommendation to approve it. Unless somebody has a curiosity, they want to hear all of it.
This is for information only.
This is for information only.
Okay, I
Tonight.
mean, if it has to be
It is-
approved later on,
Right. Okay.
go ahead.
Right.
This will not require board approval later on.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Good. Thank you. Next is public comment. I've had two. Ms. Brenda Jacobs. Ms. Jacobs, while you're coming up, you'll have 3 minutes, and there is a timer, and it'll go off and notify you when your time's up.
Okay.
Thank you.
After the February board meeting, I received emails and texts from PSRC teachers expressing their disappointment about the discussion of a possible $50,000 donation to an organization. They outlined some of their working conditions, such as no air, heat doesn't work, wall sink rattles, ceiling has bird nests, occasionally birds fly in room, sink doesn't work, so bucket is used to catch water, which is then poured out the window. Music teachers trying to teach music with broken instruments. Teachers returning to work after summer break to dirty floors. Then they listen as board members casually talk about making a $50,000 donation. The second issue that should be noted is that there are board members that are also members of the organization making the request. Am I the only person who sees this as a conflict of interest? If this item is presented for a vote today, I expect those board members to do the honorable thing and disclose their membership and recuse themselves from voting. It is important to avoid the appearance of personal interest or bias. $50,000 is a lot of money to take from a school system that has so many needs. I feel any donation is taken away from our teachers and students, but $50,000 is excessive. Instead of giving money away, you should be making efforts to look for resources to meet the needs of the school system. Notice I said needs and not wants. I would like to know if there is a written policy in regards to donations. If so, what is it? If not, the policy committee should not now be writing a policy a priority. Just know that you are opening the board up for future requests from other organizations. How will you handle those? On the positive side, after hearing the report of the gifts and pledges this organization has already received, I feel sure the goal of $500,000 will be met even without the donation from PSRC. Thank you.
Thank you. Next was Reverend Dr. Leslie Sessoms, and she's not here tonight. She sent me an email and said that she regretted not being here, but she would catch us at a later date. Okay, that's all for public comment. We move on to action items, PSRC crisis plans. Ms. Jessica Seeley.
Good evening, Chairman Lawson, Dr. Williamson, and board members. In your packet, we've included a copy of our district draft crisis plan for your review and approval, and we're asking for approval this evening.
I move the crisis plan as written. Approved.
Mr. Gentry, if you will, cut your mic on.
Move that the Public Schools of Robeson County District Crisis Plan be accepted, approved and accepted as written.
Ms. Monroe?
With the crisis plan, I just had one.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but you need a second on that motion before you can have discussion. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay. You can go ahead.
oh, okay. For the crisis plan, I noticed one of the school's counselors brought it to my attention about the, like, the behavioral with the students about having training for them. I didn't notice anything. Once he brought it to me, I went back to look at that, but would that be part of that? Like making sure each school has training for the students that have bad behavior? Like, you know, like your ECs when they sometimes get a little aggressive or just a normal, just they've noticed that there hasn't been training within the few years, like proper training for each school. So I didn't know if that would be in there as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Or-
Dr.
Dr.
Hart
Williamson.
and Ms. Freeman, can you address that? We have ongoing training.
Okay.
Can you address that, please?
I got you. Get on.
Come on up.
In regards to our EC students, we do have behavior specialists that go out and work with those teachers directly to help develop a plan and to also help them intervene with those students. So that is more targeted individually when it, in regards to our EC students. I'll let Ms. Freeman speak to the others.
In regards, good evening, everyone. In regards to all students, we have the multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, that we brought information to you before. That system of support is to actually work with students that have behavioral issues. So that work should have already taken place, and there has been many trainings that we've done. At each school, we also have an MTSS coordinator, and that coordinator actually has a group, and we have monthly meetings with school improvement teams, if I am correct. So there should be a piece at each school to support the needs of each student, not only with just behavior, but as well with academics, as well with attendance and other areas, because MTSS is a tool for support for students with behavioral concerns.
Anyone else? I have a motion by Mr. Gentry, a second by Mr. John Simmons to approve the PSRC crisis plan as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is interlocal inclusive playground funding agreement. Dr. Williamson and Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before Ms. Schwartz present the agreement, and I do want to clarify and have ownership. At the last meeting, we used the terminology donation. That is not the case, so we'll clarify that as a public school system, we're well aware that we cannot make donations. But I do want to ask Erica if you come up and explain where we're pulling that money from, please.
Good evening, Chairman Lawson, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, and board members. So the Public Schools of Robeson County participates in a program called MAC, or Medicaid Administrative Reimbursement, that we get. We have speech teachers and other EC teachers that file necessary paperwork with Medicaid, and they also participate in something called a random time study, where as long as we get 85% participation, what they do, they get contacted and said on a certain date, say March the 2nd, what were you doing at this time? They go over that, complete that survey. So we're allowed to submit the salaries and benefits for people outside of EC and get that Medicaid outreach reimbursed to us. On average, we get about $850,000 a year through that program. They have desk audits. They compare our cost report to what we actually spent for EC services, and we normally get another $300,000 or $350,000 from that as well.
So as Erica, the truth is, those funds are generated by EC.
They are generated by EC.
And so we're using EC generated funds to put back into the program, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Chair, if I may, let me ask Dr. Carr and Dr. Or if you'll come and talk about ADA and the inclusive playground. And we were made aware that there's some other playgrounds in the county that we could use also. So talk about those things, please.
So yes, so there are two different types of playgrounds. When we think of ADA compliant, we're more so thinking that they can access something. So a student could have a wheelchair and get to it, or those types of things. When we're talking about an inclusive playground, really what we're talking about is that this is for multiple disabilities. So it may be for a child that's autistic that needs sensory items. We also think about the safety when we think of those playgrounds. So because we a lot of times have runners in our students, is there a fence around it to help protect them? Then we also think about the ground. So what type of material is it made out of? So if you think about some sort of poured in place rubber surface, something that is soft for our kids, so when they fall, they do not get harmed. So really the big difference is that there are a lot of ADA compliant playgrounds, but what we're looking for is inclusive playgrounds so that we can have those opportunities for additional students that may be runners, that may fall easily, to have access to an additional playground. And as Dr. Williamson did say, we became aware of another playground that is available through the Cultural Center. We did take a look at it. It does have a lot of those components, and it is definitely something that we want to start accessing. But we also need something possibly that is closer, but that also has that fence and has a different type of ground so that we can offer it for other students too. So giving us two different opportunities will actually allow more students to have access to those playgrounds.
Okay.
You wanna?
Yeah, I think it's also, as we all know, that the types of students with disabilities is very broad and wide. And just because it's ADA accessible does not mean it's a safety area for our students. So this really provides that, which is a real plus. Not all of us need a fence around a playground typically, but this is a real plus.
Mr. Brewer?
Just for clarity, these monies are earmarked and cannot be used for anything other than the disabled.
Miss Erica?
No, that's not accurate. They can be used for other things, but they're generated because of the services provided by exceptional children.
Okay.
The funding can be used for other things, yes. But we would not get
But
the
it-
funding if not for the EC services provided that are documented.
In other words, it can't be used for like HVAC systems. It's got to be used for the EC process.
Right, it's not part of capital outlay. It's in our local fund.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So in other words, Erica, this is an eligible expenditure out of these funds, correct?
Correct, yes.
Any other questions? Hang on one second. Mr. Terry, are you, go ahead. I've got you.
Okay, thank you. So if I'm taking a look at this contract, it's the way it reads is an interlocal agreement, and we would essentially be funneling money to the city of Lumberton for essentially, it's a public park. I mean, in my mind, it's a public park that we would have access to as a school system, as a district, which is essentially what we already have in Pembroke. But I guess, you mentioned the fence. I just feel like this may be opening a can of worms for us to consider other proposals from municipalities. Would we be better served using these funds in a different way, maybe sending them directly to the schools? I know we have a number of teachers that have to buy their own supplies. I can think of a whole lot of different areas where these funds may be better suited, especially considering the fact that we were told in the last meeting that there wasn't one in the county, and now we know that there is another option available. So I would need a little bit more convincing that this is the best way for us to be using these funds, especially at this time.
Mr. Britt? You on?
Mr. Schwartz, have you looked over this agreement?
Yes, and if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to speak to the terms of the agreement, what we're getting. For the $50,000 payment, we'll be getting priority access and use of and rights to, in perpetuity, basically, the inclusive playground. So we'll be getting access to a $500,000 inclusive playground on city-owned land. And for that one-time payment, the board gets priority use of the playground facilities upon completion of the project. Upon written request, we'll have priority use Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. Upon a written request. The board and its students are permitted to use the playground at any time without priority access, beyond the priority access time. And the city is responsible for making sure that the money provided goes directly to the funding of the playground and to no other use, and to ensure that once it's built, the playground and all of its equipment remain in good working condition going forward. So we're getting for $50,000, we're getting access to a $500,000 facility on land that we don't own, that's city-owned land, during school hours and beyond. So it's basically going to be a school facility whenever we want it to be a school facility.
Mr. Chairman, based on what Dr. Williams and these people have made, and Mr. Schwartz, I make a motion that we approve this.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Hang on one second. I got Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of comments, and I think it's been mentioned already. Ms. Erica, I think you were back up there. This is mostly going to be, it's EC funding, that reimbursement where the money's coming from.
It's funds that are generated because
Generated.
of the exceptional children's services that the district
Okay.
provides.
Now, I know we are limited on ways this money can be spent.
Yes.
So if it's, I think Mr. Henry or someone mentioned, we can't do HVAC or various other things. I'm gonna just guess.
Right. It's in our local budget, not our capital outlay
Not
budget.
that's
Capital
the-
outlay is used to support HVAC and other maintenance.
Okay. We are currently transporting kids out of the county in summer programs that might be an EC child because we don't have a facility. We don't know whose children this could or could not affect. We have found that there is a facility at the Cultural Center that I remember when they built it, but I didn't know anything about it. And I'm not making this as a motion, but this is just as a thought. If it's my understanding that facility does meet some, if not all of these requirements, but it does not have the right kind of surface supposedly. And I know it doesn't have a fence because I went up there and looked at it. And if you've never dealt with kids who are runners, especially small kids, that can be a very problematic thing. So I'm just going to say in the future, regardless of how we vote tonight, we might need to look at if that facility would work. Could we go there in some way or another and put a fence around that, even though it's not our property? Then that would give us two properties as such that could be used that way. And I'm going to make this comment. If it was my child, I would want them to have access to anything they could have. Now, I mean, that's kind of the way Craig has to look at it. If it was my child, that they have access that somebody else's child has that can walk and run and jump and do whatever. And from my mindset, that's something I have to keep there. Thank you.
Ms. Ocean?
And so my question, Mrs. Schwartz, could you define like priority access? Does that mean like if we take our kids on a field trip and they need somewhere to go and, just let off some steam, we have access to that prior to others being accessible to others, right?
Right. We would have priority use of the facilities upon a written request from any representative of the school system. And that would be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. And that priority use would not prevent the use of play equipment by others. And we could have exclusive use for an hour a day.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we take a vote, may I please, Erica, can you address, we cannot allocate these funds to teachers. Please make that clear.
I was going to say that the schools themselves get low wealth allocations, those 69 allocations, they're Title I budgets. So if there is any needs of the teachers, they certainly should go to their principal and discuss with them options moving forward and get that plan in place at the beginning of each year to get the necessary supplies they need. These funds, again, are in our local budget and we don't send those out individually to the schools. They are kept in the local budget and typically used to pay any overhead for the district because it's considered medicated administrative. So we use it in the same tone with administrative costs.
Okay. And then my second to our school board attorney. So this interlocal agreement makes it clear that we are not making a donation, correct?
That's correct. The city can make a donation. We cannot, and we're not making a donation. This is an interlocal agreement with the city for access to what will be a city-owned property and the inclusive playground that will be built on that.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Trey Britt, a second by Mr. John Simmons to approve the interlocal inclusive playground funding agreement. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Well, Terry wasn't, he raised his hand. Okay. I'd like to thank the the Lumberton, Robeson, Kiwanis for the things that they do in the public schools of Robeson County, not just with this. Thank you to all of them. And next, we have the E-rate bid for new CTE center. Mr. Bobby?
No, sir. Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may. Mr. Teal just let me know that he's running a few minutes behind. So he is on his way. He just got stuck in traffic.
Okay. Mr. Bobby, you want to go ahead with the lawn care contract
Yes.
for 2024, 2025?
Yes. So good evening, Chairman Lawson, Dr. Williamson, board members. As you're aware, or as all of you are aware, about 2 years ago, we started contracting some of our loan services out in a means to put our custodians back in the buildings to get those buildings clean and ready for students to return in August. So we've been doing this going into our 4th year. The contract that we signed with our lawn care businesses last year gave us the ability to extend that contract if we're in agreement for at least one additional school year. So we are here tonight asking that we have the ability to extend that loan contract for the companies we had in place for one additional year.
Mr. Simmons?
Make a motion to approve.
Have I got you on, Ms. Dr. Mann?
Yes, sir. Will you refresh us who that contract's with and some terms of it, just a
Yes.
little bit?
Yes. So we currently have 3 contracted services that we use that are covering our campuses. One company is Gator Lawn and Landscaping, and they have 2 different groups of schools that they're taking care of. We have Bethay's Lawn Care, and they are also taking care of 2 groups of schools. We also have Richard Davis Lawn Care, and he's as well taking care of 2 different groups of schools, along with our current maintenance department. It takes care, if I'm not mistaken, 4 campuses for us.
Thank you.
And the cost for those, I'm sorry, Gator's cost for the year of cutting is $138,000. Bethay's is $263,000, and Davis is $251,000. And that is 23 cuts across the summer months, beginning one time in August, and one time in March, and we begin to increase that as the season goes on.
Follow-up question. Can you remember who cuts magnolias?
Yes, I can. Magnolia is cut by Gator.
Mr. Craig?
So this is agreement, they could, no new companies are being added.
Correct.
Could they apply if they wanted to, or the way this is worded, it's just cut and dry, we don't need nobody else?
Right. The way the contract is written, if you guys make a decision to extend the contract another year, we're going to continue with these contractors we have in place.
The one comment, and Mr. Bobby, I know you do it, is in here. We had some issues last year. Do you edge, do you weed eat, or do you spray?
Yes.
And there were some schools, they went and sprayed Roundup, when we looked at it, we knew it was terrible. It was like in the front of the school,
Yes.
the whole front's yellow because they sprayed it. So if there just could be conversations to make sure they're not, I'm gonna say ruining, I'm one that likes yards, not ruining the way the front of a school
Yes.
looks by spraying instead of weed eating.
So what we're going to implement this year that we have not in the past is we're going to have a sign off between the contractors and the principals prior to payment. So the principal has to have a conversation with these individuals who are cutting the grass prior to payment.
Thank you.
Mr. Gentry?
This may seem like a minor point, but I'm on number 8. Don't know what page it is, but there is part of the instructions of removing loose sand and other materials from all parking, driveway, and sidewalk areas shall be completed each cutting. A blower is sufficient for this. A sweeper is not required. Now, I'm speaking from my own experience as having been a school administrator. Depending on who you're talking to, sometimes you have to make it very specific about where you want the materials blown. And that doesn't include back out into the schoolyard. And that may sound like something that does need to be addressed, but I believe it does need to be addressed.
Yeah. So again, that's part of having that sign off with the principal at every cut. So if there are issues, there is that communication there instead of principals calling me and someone's already been there a week later, or calling you guys and saying, this is what's going on.
Okay.
May I follow up? There is a reference to, and I'm on that page right now, of individual machinery and windows and other items that could be affected by loose materials that are expelled with the lawnmower. I noticed it did not include vehicles. I did not see the word vehicles there. Is that inherent in
Yes.
all of that?
So any damage caused by any of our contractors who are on campus, it's their responsibility for reimbursement. We do that one of two ways. If it's a vehicle, they would get with the owner and they would reimburse that vehicle for any damages. They end up breaking one of our windows, which they've done a few times through this process, we've just simply subtracted that difference for their payment for that particular cut period.
Okay. Everybody good? I have a motion by Mr. John Simmons, a second by Mr. Vontae.
Yes. So this is, just to be clear, the motion, can you name the three companies again, Bobby?
I'm sorry, Gator Lawn and Landscaping, Bethay's Lawn Care, and Richard Davis Lawn Care.
And the motion is to extend the contracts for those three companies for one additional year.
One additional year, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I may please, I apologize. Bobby, reference was made tonight about our buildings not being clean. Can you talk about the process very quickly of how we changed that and the investment we made in new cleaning equipment, and our buildings are cleaner than they've ever
Yes.
been? Would you address that, please?
Yes, sir. So one of the benefits of COVID is we did have money to buy sanitation or cleaning equipment to keep our buildings clean. Ms. Eric, if I'm not mistaken, we spent right at $1.5 million 2 years ago to buy brand new cleaning equipment housed at every school. And in doing so, we also developed what we call cleaning teams. And those teams are put together to clean no more than 4 schools at a time. So those teams go in, they strip, wax, they do everything that needs to be done to get those buildings prepared for students to return. Those teams work around our summer school schedule. So if we're having summer school at Roller Norman, that team could be at Carroll Middle stripping and cleaning floors. And what that does, along with the long contract of removing those custodians from having to be in the yard cutting grass, it puts them inside an air-conditioned building all day long. Not saying the work's not hard, but they're inside of a building all day long, cleaning and getting prepared. And if you would talk with a good running team, they would tell you this process, if put together effectively, will cut their cleaning time almost in half. Teams that work together, to have a team that does the mopping, a team that does the stripping, a team that does the waxing, can go in and do a school in a matter of days. Whereas in the summertime, I've got previous administrators in here, they can say that their custodians will work all summer long and their buildings may not be clean. This ensures that every single one of our buildings are stripped and waxed appropriately throughout the summer before teachers return.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Thank you.
We're gonna run back up to E-rate bid for new CTE center, Mr. Everett Teal.
Chairman Lawson, Dr. Williams, and fellow board members. Apologize, been late, been at the hospital all day with a family member that was having cancer surgery. So please accept my apology for being late. In your package, you got information reference to the new upcoming career and technical education school internet process. According to E-rate, we have to do this in advance so that by the time that school come on board, the internet will already be in place, ready to go. You have 3 bids. They're in your packet. One of them was disqualified for failure, not meeting all the qualification. The other 2 bids came down to Spectrum, Lumber River / Rivtech. As you can see the prices on there. This quote was put together by an independent consultant out of our hand. We've been using them for the last, I'll say 10 years. They put the RFP together. They put the numbers together. I get those numbers and I present those to Dr. Williamson for his finding. So what you have before is what we came up with, and selection right now is Spectrum. So we would like to get your blessing to move forward with submitting this, because in order for us to get fair market dollars from E-rate, I have to submit this almost a year in advance to have these money set aside for this project.
Mr. Britt?
And I heard you correctly, Mr. Till, you recommend Spectrum is who you recommend?
That is correct, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
I've got a motion by Mr. Britt, second by Mr. William Gentry, to approve the E-rate bid for the new CTE Center presented by Mr. Teal. Spectrum.
That's correct.
Mr. Craig, you're on.
Thank you. Couple of questions. Mr. Teal, looking here where it says LREMC, the bid there, 2,800, Spectrum 2,000. That's per month?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
After the first year build out, those numbers go down from Spectrum from 2,000 to $737. The initial cost you see in there is what we call the build out, for them to take straight fiber from the Highway 74 warehouse over to the Livermore Drive address.
Okay. So that's per month. And then this contract's for how many years?
5 years, sir.
5 years. So then it would be times 5?
Well, no, it's because this is a new address,
Right.
we have to actually treat it as such. What we want to do, once this goes into play, add it to our master contract with all the other schools. Right now, that contract ends in 2032.
Okay. So the difference, let me go back. The difference is roughly $800 as far as the per month bidding.
That is
Start
correct.
with. Okay, start with. And then it could change some. So I just want to make sure we understand there is a significant difference in those 2 companies that were eligible to bid.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on, Dr. Mann, I got Mr. Henry Brewer.
Mr. Chair, we do have other advantages with LREMC technologies. They offer our teachers different programs, scholarships, and different avenues. I would have liked to seen this to went through our construction committee before it became before the entire committee. With that being said, I'd like to amend the motion to
Substitute Mr. Henry.
substitute this motion until our construction committee gets a chance to look at it. I mean, we could have even probably had these 3 companies to have a bid war. I mean, every dime we save is every dime we save.
Dr. Emmanuel?
Unless I'm wrong, somebody help me, the superintendent, the lawyer. I thought this is federal money, we had to take the lowest bid. Am I wrong? Even though some might say we get better service from a company and they have a higher bid, I thought we had to, if it's E-rate money, we had to take the lowest bid. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong.
That is correct. If you look on the rubric, pricing is the most weighted one. Now, if we decide to go with a higher bid, I can guarantee you, we will get audited.
It may also be challenged, but you've got a substitute motion to refer this to the construction committee, and that would need a second for further discussion.
Okay, we're gonna vote on substitute motion first. All in favor of sending it to construction? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? All right, here we go. All
Need
right,
a show of hands, maybe.
yes. Okay, all in favor of it going to construction on the substitute motion? Raise your hand.
Hold on a second. We got to get the votes down here. Keep your hands up, please. JS. Henry and Lynn. Okay, that's 5. That's 5.
After we vote, okay?
They need it. All opposed.
Okay. All those who's not in favor of Senate construction, raise your hand.
2, 3, 4, 5, and you? Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so the motion fails.
That's not the Senate.
So it's not going to, so the motion, the substitute motion fails. So
Right.
now the main motion is up.
Right.
Now the main motion is up.
Right. Substitute motion fails. Goes back to Mr. Britt. Motion to approve it. Mr. Gentry, second. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Hold on a second. It's keep them up, please. Sorry. Okay, that's 6.
All opposed?
4. And how about you, Randy?
I voted in the last one, 6, so it's 6-5 to approve.
Can we get that, the nays again? You voted in favor.
Yeah.
That'd be
On the
7.
first one.
That'd be
Yeah.
7. That'd be 7.
Okay.
Okay. So it's 7 to 4.
Is what I
But the
said.
nay votes?
What do we?
Raise your
name?
hand if you're. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
It's approved, Mr. Teal. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Mr. Craig's got a question.
Now, Mr. Steele, and this to you or anybody, just make sure, I mean, we voted, I'm fine. This is E-rate.
Correct.
This is federal money.
Correct.
You put out a bid, we got the numbers, what the bids were, which the bid was $800 a month difference, right?
Correct.
Now, I mean, what kind of look or what kind of eyes would we have on us if we come back and that is changed with this E-rate funding? Because now, a few years ago, we had some issues with E-rate and it being federal and T's not crossed, I's not dotted. We had some issues. And I just don't think we need to have to deal with those kind of issues again because of what went forward.
That is
There's some
correct.
other things we could talk about this, but not at this time. But what I said, am I correct in that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And-
Mr. Leach?
And you also said it dropped down to $700 also, right?
That is correct. Once the initial build out charges go away after the
Okay.
first year.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Teal.
Thank you.
Next is 2024, 2025 capital outlay projects. Miss Erica
Good
and
evening.
Mr. Bobby's on here, so.
Good evening. I fill in for Mr. Bobby at the March 7 meeting, so I'm assuming he wants me to fill in and handle it tonight as well.
Okay.
So as just a revisit, we had our Finance and Construction Committee meeting on March the 7th, and we discussed in detail not only the 24-25 capital projects, but the status of all of our current projects. And we submitted in your packet the proposed 24-25 projects separately to be voted on for approval tonight. The bleachers at Lumberton High School, paving at St. Paul's Middle School, sewer replacement at Littlefield Middle School, girls' locker room renovations at Lumberton Senior High, and paving at IEA parking lot. And we're asking for those to be approved tonight.
Mr. Chair, correcting, that's bleachers at Lumberton Junior High.
Bleachers at Lumberton Junior. Did I say senior? I apologize. Lumberton Junior.
Chair.
I have a motion by Mr. Vontae to approve the 2024, 2025 capital outlay projects. Seconded by Mr. Henry Brewer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Dr. Emmanuel?
Point of clarification. Miss Erica, do we only have $150,000 in paving? Is that all we have in the budget?
Well, with the IEA, we've kind of been kicking that can down the road. We've
I
been waiting on
understand
UNCP, so we haven't gotten a formal assessment yet because we were waiting on UNCP to start their paving to get a better pricing structure. But we have received 75,000 to complete the project based on the land that we previously sold.
Okay, I'm not fighting paving engineer. What I'm saying in your total budget, and we can all look at it. How much do you have designated for paving in the whole?
Oh, in the entire
Yes,
budget for
ma'am.
next year?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll have to get that number for you, Doc. I'd normally do $500,000 to start the year, total.
Okay, and I know Superintendent and I had a joking conversation with him the other night. I'm hoping that we can use more than $150,000 in 24-25 school year to do some patching and other
Absolutely.
things.
So we bring the larger projects forward to the board, but every day, like you mentioned with the potholes and other situations,
Yeah.
things that come up as emergencies, we set a blanket amount for paving that can be handled that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Gentry?
I have two questions. I see that Littlefield Middle School and Lumber Senior High have estimate requested. What's the holdup with those?
Just getting those dollar amounts from Mr. Ernie. Because I think some of the sewer has already been done at Littlefield. They've got the nitrification field in place, and they just got to get somebody to come in and do those estimates.
And follow-up question. These are estimates from within our system. These will then be put out for bid. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They will.
So to follow back up with the Littlefield conversation, Mr. Ernie is in conversation now with our sewer engineer who helped outlay that original project when we did the extension, the new cafeteria many years ago. So when I last talked with him, he said he's estimating at this point about $400,000. But the gentleman has to look at enrollment, has to look at daily attendance for a certain period of time before he can give us a solid dollar amount on that estimate there. But I think Ms. Erica shared with you in the finance committee meeting, we're also pumping and hauling there. So every month we're constantly spending money. So we otherwise, as in Dr. Williamson's words, fix it one time and let's move to the next project. Or every month we're going to be constantly pumping and hauling there because the septic system has failed.
And I believe Mr. Ernie mentioned at the finance committee meeting, we've spent about $90,000 on that process at Littlefield so far. And that's included, we have an emergency sewer amount that's built into the budget.
Any other questions? I'd just like to say on this capital outlay, the projects that we have had going forward are being completed. Here's another line of jobs that are presented and has been approved so that we stay on track getting these things done. Would like to thank Mr. Ernie for all the work that he does, Mr. Bobby, the construction and the finance. And we had a meeting back
The 7th?
7th.
That's Thursday.
I was getting close. But with that being presented, the ones that were here, this stuff's in your packet, so you need to read through it and understand it and the things that's going to be presented. Miss Erica, monthly financial report. Mr. John Simmons.
Ms. Erica, has anything changed?
Not with that, but I do need to ask for approval of a contract addendum that has been placed at your desk for procare therapy. Everyone should have a copy. We need to ask for approval of that addendum to the existing EC contract because we need additional services provided by procare therapy.
This is for approval of the First Amendment to the contract for.
Correct, the first amendment to the original contract.
Mr. Terry and then Mr. Trey.
Has something come up to cause this amount to change?
Additional services are needed, an increase in the services. other providers could not provide the services. So this company needs to step in and provide them in order for us to remain compliant.
So, okay, so we were working with some other companies.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Schwartz, have you looked over this contract?
Yes. It's fine.
Mr.
And then I can
Simmons?
take any, I'm sorry, any questions anybody has.
I've got a motion by Mr. John Simmons to approve the procure therapy contract. Mr. Vontae Leach with a second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
And then I can take any questions anybody has. We presented the entire operating budget also on the 7th. And we're asking for that to be approved tonight in the budget resolution. The 60-page document, the 23-24 budget
Mr.
that we
Simmons?
presented.
Anything changed, Ms. Erica?
No, sir.
Make a motion to approve.
I've got a motion by Mr. Simmons to approve the budget resolution for 2023, 2024. Mr. Craig with a second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Rescheduling April 9th board meeting. Board members? Right, there's some that'll be out of town for the National School Board Conference in New Orleans. Mr. Craig?
And now, make sure. Easter break is March 31st through that first week in April, right?
Mhm.
And if my question is just only is if we come that week in Thursday, Dr. Williamson, would that give the staff here time enough to prepare coming back that Monday and
Yes.
everything to have the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Simmons for April 11th. I have a second by Mr. Henry Brewer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
And that
so
would be at
sorry.
6 PM. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Lawson.
What you got?
Could I say one more thing,
Yes.
please? And I will send this out to all the staff, but I wanted to let everyone know we're going to reschedule the March pay date because that Friday is Good Friday, and I know the credit union will be closed. Some of the other banks may be open, and the district's open that day. But because of the credit union and most of our employees using the credit union, the fact that it will be closed that Friday, we're going to move the pay date to March the 28th. And I'll send that out in an email to all the staff.
So that's an early pay date for
That's early.
employees.
For the 28th, yes, sir.
Yeah, that
Thank
they've
you.
already worked for, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So everybody got that. Mr. Britt?
I move that the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robeson County go into closed session for the purposes of discussing certified and classified personnel, North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, A1 and 6, and to consult with the attorney retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robeson County, North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, A1 and 3, and to consider student matters that are considered with North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, A1 and 115C-402 and 20 U.S. Code 1232G.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We're in closed session.
Bennett.
Okay, I've got a motion by Mr. John Simmons and a second by Ms. Ocean to approve personnel as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion for closed session, right?
Motion to approve the closed session minutes is what you need.
Motion.
Make a motion to approve, closed session minutes.
I've got a motion to approve closed session minutes. I got a second by Mr. Vontae. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Mr. Chair and board members, can we take a moment of silence to remember and recognize Ms. Darlene Bryant, who was academic coach at East Robeson. Also, one of our principals, Ms. Angela Faulkner, lost her son, and anyone else that we have not called, please. Yes, student at Fairmont High and at Purnell Sweat. Anyone else? Let's take a moment, please. Amen. Also, Mr. Chair, if I may, please, we do want to announce that the board did approve our recommendation to employ Ms. Jamie Lowry as our new exceptional children director, and we're excited about that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Creed.
Folks, all of you got this flyer about retirees and everything. And I just want to say thank you to whoever at the central office worked on that I was taught at a drive-through. And we needed to celebrate these folks, especially the retiree group. And I know it's a dinner, requires some work, but thank you to who worked on that, and looking forward to all those different groups of people whenever we have it. Thank you.
Okay, before you go to adjournment, I want to say for myself and this board, happy Easter. Be safe. We're giving this prayer because we won't meet again. So be safe out there. Enjoy your time during your holidays, and thank you for your service. And Slugfest starts on, Mr. Bobby. What's the date? April 1st through the 3rd at Lumberton Senior. March 30th at Lumberton Senior High School. Is there anything you need to share now?
Nope.
I need a motion. Miss Ocean with a motion, Miss Monroe with a second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. We stand adjourned.